This week on RSBANDB Update, the conclusion to the Fort Forinthry storyline arrives as we end Vorkath and Zemouregal. We discuss the boss fight, drop tables, and the purpose, or lack of purpose, for hard mode. And we ask, is Vorkath a boss for the average player? We also preview Christmas 2023 and the Black Partyhat. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 962, recorded Thursday, November 23rd, 2023. A normal Vorkath. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. Happy Thanksgiving to the Americans out there, two of which on this panel. Tanis, welcome. Thanksgiving this year.
Thank you, Shane. Yep, it was a wonderful holiday where I stuffed my face and came here to talk about a fun little quest.
A boss that you actually were able to kill on normal mode.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Who would have thought? That tells me where I'm at with the boss, and the theory crafting I was doing is true. But also joining us this week is Zerdones to talk about the what I'd call you like a average level PVMer probably. Was that where you'd put yourself?
Yeah, I'd put myself in the mid tier.
Okay.
Between middle of the mid and maybe upper of the mid, depending on how I'm feeling.
Good. And also Bears is here, who has been throwing himself into hard mode since day one. Been a while since we heard from you, even before Necromancy, but welcome back to the show, Bears.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. But before we begin, I'm just going to give a big thank you to our experienced here Patreon supporters, for whom without RSBANDB Update would not be possible. And this week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, and the Naked Captain. Big, huge thank you to those people, and you'll learn more about our Patreon offerings in a little bit later in the podcast. But if you want to follow along, full show notes are at update.show. You can also join our community Discord at update.show/Discord, and our friends chatting game is BitsBytes. You can find me in game at Shane12088 if you want to DM me about anything, hate mail, positive stuff, whatever. Shane12088. Tanis can be found at Tanis79. Zerdones with an X. And Bears, I don't even know what you're named in this day and age. Probably some sports name.
Yep. Right now it's for my Iron Man, which I'm on more, is Bears 0-17.
Okay. That's what you're hoping for.
Wait, 0-17?
They're not good this year. I came to that conclusion pretty quickly.
Oh, that's rough. That is rough.
Woo, the Bears.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this could be the sports podcast. No, I mean, Bears would be the only one who'd be able to school us all on that.
I could talk about an hour though, if you'd like, about it. So
yeah, that might
could work.
Do it. Hard pivot.
That might be an interesting one-time episode to do something to that effect. But nonetheless, we're going to go through Vorkath, and the reason this panel's put here together is we've got four people who experienced the boss at different difficulty levels. Tanis, you were here because I thought, story mode, that's going to be based on previous bosses about where you're going to land. But you actually surprised me. You did story mode, which you said was fine. Mm-hmm. And you also did normal mode, which, just quick assessment on that, being more of a Slayer person, not a PVM person.
The thing about, the difference I found between story and normal, look, I prefer story, right? But if you're doing the, you're doing the pillars and stuff, it's all the same. The only difference was how much food I ate, because I'm not good. No, I'm not trying to be good. On top of that, I'm stacking the deck as far in my favor as possible, right? I'm using Crypt Bloom, Animate Dead, like the Supreme
whole shebang.
Yeah, all that stuff. I can't remember. I might even used. I had an Origo and I can't remember which one, but
Vampirism maybe.
I actually think it. No, I actually think it was. Yeah, I think it was. It was a DPS or.
Oh wow! Okay.
Sure.
Oh yeah, because if you're using magic, you do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
and my DPS it's horrible. So I need every little
and
bit
you
I
got
could.
through it, and that's a story at the end of the day, and where we're going to see
Yeah.
where the core of the content around this boss lands. Zerdones, you know, obviously you're in it for the quests, and you have I think you have Reaper. You almost have Reaper, I think was our discussion.
Almost, not quite.
Yeah. How did you find it?
I mean, story mode, I had no issues. Story mode was fine. Normal mode, I did a silly thing where I started off normal mode without doing any of the places of power. So I just went in with all of Zemo's mechanics, and I got through it. I got through it fine. I think I did 5 runs and 2 kills like that.
Okay.
I was using a lot of food. Like, it was, I could do it. It wasn't a lot of fun, a lot of damage, very chaotic fight. So then I went and I started doing the places of power and going, and from there it's been a lot smoother.
Yeah.
It's still quite chaotic, but it's fine.
Yeah, and you basically
It's a fine boss.
summed up my experience with it as well, is that most of what I've been doing is on normal. I took one attempt on hard mode. I didn't get it, and that was before the show. But, you know, I have a handful of kills on normal mode, and, you know, I feel like for me, normal mode is it's way easier than Raziel. It's way easier than normal mode Carapac.
Yes.
And to me, that's telling a story of where this boss is going to land in terms of the loot and the content surrounding it. But Bears, how did you wind up in hard mode on day one?
Well, I did my 2 normal mode kills, and both times I think I struggled more killing the giants outside the fight than I did the actual boss. I'm like, these giants are kind of annoying. So I was told if you go into hard mode, you don't need to kill them. And so that was my thought process. I'm like, I'll just go for it, see what happens. Took me to my second hour to get my first kill, and it was like 8 minutes. But I got there, and then it just kind of kept getting faster every time I got a kill.
Yeah, and for folks who are unaware, your level of PVM is you've done the solo Virago and solo Solak and whatnot, right?
Not Virago, but solo Solak. I mean, I have I had Final Boss until this week. Not Insane Final Boss, just Final Boss. So I still need to get my 100 kills with this one to get it back. But
yeah, and you did a lot with hard mode Zamorak as well when that came out.
Yep.
So it's the different. It's basically the different level folks that we're showcasing here. Is that, you know, story mode, normal, a different degree of normal, and then hard mode with Bears, who hangs around that level of hard mode PVM content. And of course, with this also in story mode, we got a quest, and of course the quest surrounding this Battle of Forinthry, which is what it's being called. You know, it's the typical quest that we've come to expect with this, where it's like, oh my god, Zemouregal and Vorkath are here, it's time to get going, we're gonna, you know, actually go and do the fight this time round. The quest is basically go do the fight in story mode. You get a little bit of tutorializing on what the different pillars symbolize and what they're going to symbolize inside the boss fight itself, which I thought was a nice touch, using the quest to in effect tutorialize the boss. Did you guys find that useful?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
I think it's good that they did it. I don't think, and I don't think I'm the only one who had this experience. I don't think I fully absorbed all the tutorialization.
Yep.
Like, I did not figure out what the ballista was supposed to be for.
Oh yeah, we signed on the on story mode, you and I.
That was you and Bears.
That was me.
Okay.
I did it on story mode, but I did it by accident. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, because I saw the button. I was like, oh, what does this do? Push. Oh, this does 10,000 damage. Okay, I'm gonna hammer this. So I just happened to use it at the right time.
Wait, what ballista? What do you mean?
There's the extra action button comes up during the fight. It's I don't know. It's movable.
It's up
in
to
your
you
UI.
on your UI.
Yeah, I don't know where it is for
in
you.
a different position.
I
for everybody.
never saw that.
It's if you go into the Elder God Wars dungeon, you'll be able to see it because it pops up in there. So you can find, like, if you go into that dungeon, you can see where it is, and then you'll know where it is. But yeah, that's it's basically a free 10k damage to both Vorkath and Zemo.
Yeah, and it also
one of Vorkath's
attack,
attacks it interrupts.
Oh no shit!
And like that's basically an insta kill if you don't interrupt it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know a lot. Like you guys, I know a couple people in Clan Quest got just murked by that.
Yep. And the only reason I was actually able to get it done first go is because of the sign, and then there was just enough DPS after that to kill them both.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Maybe it could have been a little bit more clear with that.
Well, I mean, in Jagex's defense, there is like the raptor yells at you, "Oi, fire the ballista, you idiot." So, kind of a little bit on us, maybe.
Yeah, but the thing, and I suspect many other players are like this, when it's boss time, I am tunnel visioning on my action bar. I don't know if that's a common thing with you guys, that I miss that sort of, external input even from the game itself.
Yeah, I think that is a common thing. I think it's one of the major flaws in the combat system, but
yeah, that's a topic for a different show, of course.
That's a broader topic.
Yeah. Okay. So we fight Zemouregal and Vorkath. I feel like this is just a culmination of why the wilderness needed to be removed and why, we needed the fort. We're finally, seeing benefits of this, 8 months after the fact, or 10 months after the fact, I think, January, February-ish, give or take, when this first came out. And then, of course, after that, there's some damage to the fort that needs to be repaired. And you learn that there's a little thing called a trap door next to the command center, and we're storing a prisoner down there.
Yeah, so somebody snuck some blueprints into our command center when we weren't looking.
There's down there, we're storing Zemouregal.
Yeah, keeping him on ice. He seems happy down there.
Yeah, and
he's in his element.
And we use one of our own wards to ensure that he's not able to regain too much power as well, which I thought was interesting. One of our own necromantic wards.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have to cast, but just right there is an option. So that was neat. And then following from that, we get another cutscene showcasing conversation between Bilrock and Moya, realizing that, Zemouregal has surrendered. Well, yeah, Bilrock says, this was expected. It's time to move on to the next phase of our plan. And that kind of goes back to what Mod Jack said about the story being delivered in 2 parts. First one's going to be a year long, and then the next one's going to take next year as well. And that one, about a year from now or so, will be the true conclusion to this entire arc.
His arc that started with Civil War, really.
Yeah. And it would have been nice if Avernick were here as well to comment on this, but we only have room for 4 people, and it was hard getting Americans this week because it was Thanksgiving and all that. So, what do you think, Sir Jones? Do you think this is, since you're aside from me, Clan Quester here, do you think that we're going to reap the benefit of this storyline here in terms of, having a satisfying conclusion to Moya's reign of chaos?
I'm optimistic. I think there's a lot you can do with Moya. I think, like in your summary, like you kind of very casually threw out that Bilrock was there, but actually, like that's quite surprising that he's there.
I thought we were talking. Was that you or me? I was talking to somebody who predicted that Bilrock would come to the scene. I forget who it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhat foreseeable, but given where we left off Moya's story, like Moya's story in Succession ended with her pimp slapping Bilrock across the room.
Yeah.
And then we cut over to Adraste's coronation, and we do the strange power thing, which has been established means that a Majorat died.
Yeah. And we thought that could have been Bilrock, I think, at the end there.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
The implication is that Moya killed Bilrock.
But we know that's not true.
A, she didn't, and B, Bilrock is now loyal to Moya and kind of like implicitly not of his own free will is quite interesting.
Yeah. So then that's the question: what Majorat died? Was it Bill Rock?
Maybe,
and then maybe this is
maybe
like some reanimated form.
Yeah, maybe it was Bill Rock, and Moya has brought him back as a little necrominion.
Maybe that's it, and maybe that's why necromancy ties into all this. Because you remember in Succession there was that question of necromancy when we were running through that cave in the wilderness, right?
Yep.
So maybe that's all the pieces of this puzzle starting to fit together. And I feel like I do need to point out, just in the typical realm of RuneScape quest, that at some point, Zemouregal's going to escape from the prison either through one of our oversights or the oversight of the guard. I feel like that's we know that's going to happen for certain.
Of course.
But that's is this the end of the storyline for the fort then? I wonder.
I think it is. Like, I think this is a fairly
because that was the whole point
conclusion.
of it, was to build that defense. The fort protects Mistlin.
Right. Like the idea was we build up the defenses. We hired on the guards who held the walls. Like this is sort of the fort has accomplished what it was set out to do. I hope they revisit it in the future, like maybe not as a full storyline, but as a story element. But yeah, I think this is a satisfying conclusion.
All right.
I think.
Bears, Tannis, how do you guys feel being resident, just consumers of the game rather than lore hounds?
So the last couple, all except for Dead and Buried I enjoyed. Like they as a quest line in general, fun.
They were pretty much a quest line that anybody who's even just picking up the game could get into.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really, I don't know. I really liked it. I love the fact that we did what the Night's Watch couldn't do, and we held the wall against the undead dragon. It did not breach our fort.
Well, parts of it did. We had to repair parts of it.
Yeah, but we whipped it out.
But they didn't breach. Well, they breached it, but they didn't enter. We got
That's right.
True.
We held the line.
That's right. But I mean, it was. I kind of liked the story.
It was very traditional, and it was very isolated.
Yeah.
It wasn't, one of those grand storylines that takes a decade to unravel itself, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did what they set out to do, I think.
Yeah. And, I'm still on the record as saying that I don't necessarily know that I like Moya as a character, so I might have chosen to do something else instead, but it's an interesting thing to consider nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be remembered as the quest line that Kathleen Kennedy the Raptor, but I mean,
well,
I thought you were going to say the quest line that came after the Elder Gods and their saga, but
no.
Bears, any thoughts on the quests? Just somebody passing by for the PVM content?
I mean, as you said, I'm not a big quest guy, so
yeah.
I've made it a point to do quests in the first week of release for the last year.
Good for you.
So it's been this whole storyline. I'm not going back and doing some of the older ones still, though. But so I've done this whole storyline within a week of the release, and I've actually enjoyed it. And I think part of that is just it's new and shiny.
Oh, so you're saying you packed the whole storyline into the week before this boss?
No. Like the quest gets released on Monday. I'm doing it either that Monday or throughout that week.
Got it.
So. I've kind of enjoyed following it a little bit more, and I think it's mostly because it's new, shiny, and it's something I can follow. Okay. So it's been interesting. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Good.
And, I feel like this is the way we're going to see RuneScape story delivered further, and we'll have to wait and see, how this fits into the framework when we get another Quester's Quest, like Azanadra's Quest, or another puzzle quest like You Are It or The Needle Skips. But
that's not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, what were you thinking?
I thought you were going to say Elemental Workshop.
Yeah, I've accepted that we're likely not going to see that for a long time, if ever.
Yeah, probably not.
But all right. So we've been what I've been doing here for the listeners who might see where this is going. I've been building up a case and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this, that this boss was designed around normal mode. And it was designed that the core experience around this boss would be normal mode on its own, in that you would have to go do the siege phase, take down the various giants and whatnot, and then disrupt their pylons, and then go into the Vorkath fight. That making for the entire experience in itself. And I feel like story mode was for the quest. I feel like normal mode is for everybody else, and hard mode is just there for people who wanted that hard mode stamp. And we're seeing that with so many other things in here, specifically the mechanics, which, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Bears, the mechanics in the Vorkath and Zemouregal fight, moving from normal to hard mode, just hit harder, and they have more HP, the Vorkath and Zemouregal.
Yeah, I don't think there's any change.
Yeah, you don't have to fight the giants outside, but that's it. Or, sorry, you can't fight the giants outside, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
So to activate hard mode, you just run straight westward and grab that one, disrupt that one, and that takes you right into the boss fight. And that's what you said, Bears, is that's the reason you were doing it. It was just to shorten that process down.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the food use of my kills, I feel like most of my food use actually came from the giants outside.
Yeah, the giants are a bit tough. When you're killing the giants, how do you just run in guns blazing?
Yeah.
Okay. You can make things it takes a little longer. You make things a little easier on yourself if you just sort of go around the outside and pick off the 4 minions. Because the way the aggro works for those guys is, first off, they're constantly spawning minions that run past you, but they just ignore you. Yeah. Even if you damage them, they ignore you completely. There's a giant, and there's 4 minions that are stationary.
Right.
And if you attack the giant, those 4 will attack you. But if you don't attack the giant and you stay out of his aggro range, which is a little bit larger than a normal monster, you can do them one by one. Yep. And the giant moves around sort of randomly, so you can't always get all 4 of them without aggroing the giant. But you can reliably get at least 1 or 2. That makes things a little easier.
Okay.
It does take longer, but...
Okay. And see, that's the thing. Do you do this out front first, or do you just learn hard mode if you're wanting to do the boss? That's the question I have at this point.
Yeah. Well... I mean, it depends on your skill level, right? Like, me, I think hard mode is beyond my capabilities right now.
Okay.
Like, I can do normal mode with all the mechanics turned on, but it's hard. And I can't reliably do it without the Ring of Death. So, like, my first kill, actually, I think my first 2 kills, I got under the Ring of Death bleed effect. So I signed and then died again.
Right.
And I killed him under the Ring of Death bleed. I don't think I could do hard mode.
All right, fair enough. And Bears, with this, you said the main reason you were doing hard mode was just to, you know, having to skip this nonsense we're talking about at the beginning right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was under the assumption I should be able to get a kill within, like, I mean, I spent 3 or 4 hours getting a kill at Zammy at 100% before I got a kill. So I knew I had the time. I'm like, okay, I'll just learn the hard mode. Surely, it should be better.
And this isn't as difficult as Zamorak.
Correct. No. So, it took me an hour and a half. It wasn't a good kill, but it was a kill, and it was something to move forward with. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a bit about the fight itself, and in particular some of the mechanics that we see in it, because I feel like that's something that we've been dancing around a bit here before. So Zemouregal and Vorkath each have their own suite of mechanics, including things like auto attacks. One thing that we're talking about that you're able to, in effect, turn off by disabling one of the pylons is the bone spikes attack, and that's the one that you, in effect, have to resonance or barricade for, right?
Or just get out of the way.
Right. Okay.
Because it's like the Gemstone Dragon special. It telegraphs where it's going to go, and you just have to move, and then it's fine. It's very easy to avoid. It's mostly more of an annoyance than anything.
Okay.
Yep.
And what are you doing for that, Bears? Just moving away? Or are you disruption shielding or resing?
So the way the timing of it works is, and we'll get to the other mechanic, is the ice circle for Vorkath. They're about the same timing. So if you get the ice circle, you know the bone spikes is going to come relatively soon.
Okay.
But like it was said, it's pretty easy to see. So I usually just dive a couple tiles away, and it's not a big deal.
All right. And for the ice circle, it's in effect a big bluish white thing that appears in the center of the battlefield, and what you do from that is you just want to make sure that you're anticipated or something. So if you do get caught by it, it doesn't stun you, and then just move out to the edge of the arena is what I've been doing for that one, because you can't turn the ice circle off. You cannot turn that one off.
No, you can't turn off any of Vorkath's specials. You can only turn off Zemo's specials.
Yeah. So Zemouregal's other special is the undead that appear in the fight, and these are I want to say stock undead models that we've seen before: sorcerers, rangers, warriors, healers.
I think they're the same ones from the Ungale combat activity.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's why they look familiar. And you have to kill those before you're able to progress the fight. Otherwise, you get immune hit splats popping up.
No.
Really?
No, you don't need to kill them.
Okay.
So there's 6 minions. 3 of them are just damage and on the combat triangle, and they just attack you and they do style damage. One of them is a ghost that heals Vorkath if you don't kill it. One of them is, I don't remember what it's called, but it applies a buff to Vorkath that reduces damage taken. But you can, like, if you're like me, you can just ignore it.
Okay.
It doesn't make Vorkath immune to damage. It just reduces damage.
Okay, that's what
so
was
you can
happening
ignore it.
Then. Yeah.
Yep.
Because
then you can. There's a third one which I don't actually know what it does. I assume it has something to do with, like, Zemo has a bar called Power.
It's
which
empowering
I have no idea
zombies,
what it does.
Which, I mean, that's just what
so
it
I think
says.
it has something to do with that.
Yeah. And
I think what you're seeing with the immune hit splats is Zemo himself is immune to damage for most of the fight.
Okay,
well, he's immune.
So what that was then was my AoE, in effect,
Yeah.
hitting him and preventing that from doing it. Got it.
Yeah.
And
so Zemo is immune to damage until you phase Vorkath the first time. So when you get Vorkath's health down to that first little chevron, then Vorkath turns and attacks Zemo. At that point, Zemo is vulnerable, but he still takes vastly reduced damage. And then he doesn't take full damage until Vorkath leaves.
Yeah. And when Vorkath leaves, and this is, a big secret here, maybe it's a big secret, maybe not, but if you kill Zemouregal while Vorkath is gone, the boss fight is done.
Yep.
So that's in effect a way that you could cheese it. So
skip.
And yeah, so it's
I did that.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought that was the end. I thought that's
pro PVMer.
No, he'll come back.
Well, yeah. So, like, there's sort of 2 Vorkath leaving. So Vorkath leaves if you get his health to 0, and then he just leaves forever.
Yep.
And then you fight Zemo, get him down to 0, and that's the end of the fight. But Vorkath also has a special attack where he flies away, and what you're supposed to do is use the ballista to disrupt, and then that'll hit Vorkath, and Vorkath will come crashing down. If you don't do that, then Vorkath just obliterates you. It's a massive magic hit.
That's where Bears and I signed.
Always kills you. Yeah. But, like, it takes a couple seconds for him to come back with that attack. So you can, in theory, and while he's gone, Zemo takes full damage. So you can, in theory, kill Zemo while Vorkath is charging this insta-kill, and then the fight just ends.
Okay.
So do you know if it was the first time or if it was after you took Vorkath down completely that you ended the fight?
Well, within the story mode,
maybe that's why you didn't need the ballista, because you did it while he was gone.
Yeah, you just phase skipped entirely. That's one way to avoid the mechanic.
Yeah.
First an accident.
Who knew? Of course, there's also
PVMer right here.
Of course, there's also Dragon Breath, Vorkath the Dragon. Pools of poison appear on the ground. Is there a difference between those pools? I've seen purple and green. Is there a difference between them?
Yes.
I'm not. There is.
Yeah. So the green will hit you like 2,000 or 3,000. The purple will hit you about 4,000. So just more damage.
Oh, so just more.
Okay.
So it's still poison.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if this is a difference," and stepped on it and regretted that.
I saw that in the first kill that you sent me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to avoid those because Venom Blood does nothing. Anti-poison does nothing.
And
I don't think there's any way to mitigate that damage.
No.
Just not standing in goo.
And what this tells me, again, and everything that we've been talking about is applicable. Story mode, normal mode, hard mode. It's just a question of what you're going to see if you're on story mode. And in hard mode, there's just more HP to chew through. There's more damage being thrown at you. That's the difference between these fights. And that leads me with everything we've been talking about here, specifically with how Tanis, you interacted on this, how Userdones interacted on it, and my experiences with it. This tells me this boss fight is designed for people like us with normal mode in mind. That's my working theory on this, Bears. Do you agree with that? Do you feel like something else maybe, or?
No, I agree 100%. I mean, yeah, it is just I had to mitigate more damage, take less damage, and deal more damage in hard mode. Like, there's no new mechanics, nothing exciting. It's just deal more damage, take more damage.
Yeah. And remember to use that ballista when Vorkath flies away, or else you wind up being dead.
The other thing with that is if, and by the time, I mean, I'm at like 30-ish kills, so I kind of know the timing a little bit now. But if you use the ballista after Zemo does Undead Army, it'll kill all the skeletons and everything there too. So,
nice.
Like
so
early on in the kill,
too. Okay.
Yeah, so early on in a kill, and I know he's not about to fly away, I'll hit it once or twice before he flies away. And like I said, I know I'm starting to learn the timing a little bit better with it, but it's definitely caught me a couple times where it's like, oh, it's on cooldown now, so that's a death. But I think it's worth the risk to avoid having to take a second to kill the healers and the shielders.
Yeah, those minions are assholes.
Yeah.
It is not a fun fight when you're taking 4 different styles of damage at once.
I still only have 3 prayers keybound for it, so
yeah.
I just hopefully I don't get hit with melee.
And you can't pray flick, can you? Because they all sort of hit on the same tick, don't they?
Yeah,
that's what I noticed with Zemo and Vorkath at least.
And that's why I think it just makes sense to cap necromancy.
Yeah, some people are able to prayer flick. I haven't been able to get the timing down, so I just keep praying against necromancy up.
Yep.
What's the green shield that keeps appearing around Vorkath? I think that's the one.
That's
the shielders. Yep.
Okay.
The skeleton.
Oh, okay. So you just got to kill one of those then. Got it.
Yep.
And I feel weird right now because I feel like if we were discussing, Karapak, or if we were discussing Zuck, or if we were discussing Raziel, we would have to talk about the various mechanics involved there in moving up to hard mode, but we don't have to discuss any of that right now. We just went through all the mechanics of the boss fight for story, normal, and hard.
Twice as much health, more damage. You can't make it easier. And
that leads to the key, one of the key questions around this, and that that's why does hard mode exist? And I want to dive deep into that. But before that, I just want to thank our Patreon supporters. Since it's about that time in the episode, right? That's about a good time to do that. Everybody, grab your favorite beverage, or bottle, as Tanis auto-corrected me for Thanksgiving this year. But grab your favorite beverage on this Thanksgiving and join me in thanking our Patreon supporters. I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Jewel Burra, Chunk the Monk, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Free Milk, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jeebus, Jesse W., Keski, Ling01, Nate the Great, Nick G., Pernasius, Renhawk, Ricky A, Rippeth, Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirtpants, Tabby, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Tom V, Ukulele Steve, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to all these people for allowing us to do what we do here. We're closing in on the end of the year, which means Clip Show at the end of December is on the way. That's a big milestone for us, getting to go back and listen to all the nonsense that happened throughout this year in the show and in pre-show. So we're going to do that. But with that, Patreon supporters who sign up for the Insider tier, and I want to talk about this one a little bit more this week, because not only do you get the clips for the Clip Show, you get the shout-out on the podcast each and every week, but those people who sign up for the Insider tier are getting a Christmas card. So if you want a Christmas card from RSBNB Update, sign up at patreon.com/RSBNB for the Insider tier by December 1st. If you're already a member, upgrade to the Insider tier. You can upgrade for just 1 month if you want the Christmas card. That's fine. Just make sure you include your shipping info. But I got the cards. I got to mail them out. I got to write them out. That's going to be a weekend project, so you can look forward to that happening. But we also do have other tiers available if you just want to support us. We have, for as little as $1 a month, you can sign up, get access to a back catalog of monthly bits or bonus shows, as we call them, and we got all sorts of topics in there. We're actually voting for a mega one right now, and it actually looks like, after our dissection of Slayer last month, Dennis, it actually looks like this coming month we're going to be doing a tier list of Slayer tasks, hot or not, as one of the options. Yeah.
All right.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So people are rewarding you for your discussion on Slayer and perhaps punishing me for wanting to tear the skill apart. But just a bit of a preview of what we have. We also, of course, have last year's special on holiday events. We have our world famous tier list and so many other episodes as well that you can find at patreon.com/RSBNB. And we also do have a tier in the middle as well, the VIP rank, where you get a chat channel access mentioned on the podcast at the start of the month, a rank on Discord, and access to high quality stereo versions of the show. And of course, we couldn't do what we do here without everybody. So big, huge thank you goes out to all of our Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/RSBNB. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks.
All right. Any further questions on mechanics before we dive into what is hard mode?
I notice this is sort of a bear's question, because this is something that I'm not yet been able to figure out. So Vorkath has Dragonfire attack, but I noticed that he has like 3 different colors of attack. Are they different?
No idea. I tank that mechanic.
Okay, fair enough.
I think in theory I should be switching to Prey Mage, but a lot of times there's too much going on that it only hits. It's not 100% accurate, so that's the thing. Okay. So it's like sometimes it'll hit me 3,000, which hurts, but I would say maybe that's 3 out of 5 times that it hits. My
theory is that the blue one is magic, the purple one is necromancy, and the pink one is either just hard, like a soft typeless big hit, or it stuns you. Because there's something that stuns you. I don't know what.
Yeah, what is stunning in the battle here? I know it's definitely not the...
the ice circle does, but there's something else.
Yeah, because it wasn't at ice circle time.
I was assuming it was one of Zemo's abilities, but I don't...
Oh, it might be that, because Zemo does use some of the necromancy abilities.
But it looks like it's only Death Skulls, Volley of Souls, Finger of Death, and Blood Siphon, and none of those.
Is it Soul Strike? Is it Soul Strike, or is it Volley
of Souls? You might occasionally use that, and that's just...
Because that's a stun.
That could be, okay.
That's a stun.
So maybe when he only has 1 soul, he'll do it, but I don't know.
Yeah. And, that actually brings up a key point with this boss fight, and, you could also say it's an issue with other boss fights as well. How do you read this fight?
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There's so much going on. How do you know where the bat is going to land and not to stand in it? Of course, you get the little dust popping up from the spike attack, and you can avoid that. I guess you just kill the undead ads when they spawn. But this fight in particular, I think, is just really hard to read.
Yeah, it's very chaotic. I think because you've got damage coming from so many different sources. Like for the most part, most RuneScape bosses are one thing that's hitting you. So you can see what it does, and that it does one thing and one thing happens to you. So you can tell, oh, he does whatever thing that does is this effect. But now we effectively have two bosses at the same time. So it's kind of hard to parse what effect is coming from which.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I mean, I've done so much Solak in my career that I think I could fall asleep with the timing of prayer flicking that boss. Like, I know,
right, and
I know when that's going to happen. So, like, you just can't do that easily with this one. So, like, that's a huge challenge with it.
Maybe that's part of the design.
And that's fine if like I don't think that's inherently wrong. Like I kind of enjoy it, but it's just interesting, and
right? Because
different.
if you watch my Raziel kills, right, everything in effect is on a set rotation at Raziel, and you know one thing that actually can mess up my rotation from time to time is if I actually save adrenaline, because I got to figure out how to in effect shift the rotation ahead to a point where I can use that adrenaline successfully. And I'm just so used to pressing things in a certain order there. And that's what so many RuneScape bosses are about, is that they're just about executing that rotation. And, you know, I think, Bears, I think you're right that it's fine to have a boss that does this, but maybe the game is just not in a position where it can handle it. Because, you know, if you look at any other MMO out there, you're going to get a glowing aura on the ground of when a bad thing is going to appear a couple seconds before, and you can run out of the way, block it, do something to that effect, right? And same thing with the ads that come up. Normally they'll make a bigger deal out of them, and they'll run to the center of the fight. Whereas with these ones, you actually actively got to be watching for them, and then just click away.
The best way to find them is to look at your mini map and see if there's any other yellow dot.
Right.
And like that doesn't seem like a good way to handle that. Like, I mean, I went through 3 or 4 kills before I realized where the shield was coming from, why he was healing. Like most of the time, I was just letting like a Death Skulls or a any other AOE accidentally kill them.
Yeah,
like that's what was happening.
Yep.
And so it took me 4 or 5 kills to realize, oh, I should probably kill them. And for the most part, I still don't, but I at least know what's going on now.
And that's the thing. And the reason this is such a big deal is because you are a seasoned PVMer. What does this mean for somebody who just picked up this game in February with Fort Forinthry, and this is their second boss after Hermod? What does it mean for them?
Yeah, it's just too much going on. Like, I mean, as I kind of said before, the Ice Circle and Bone Spikes usually come out around the same time. So dealing with those two mechanics that are both visually based, you're looking at where you stand to see the smoke kind of pile around you to know that Bone Spikes is coming. And then you also have to look at Vorkath to know that, oh, he's flying up about to do Ice Circle. And just, oh, okay, I had to move for both of them. So it's nice that you deal with the mechanic the same way, but it's still not easy to know they're both coming.
I think it's worth pointing out that, like, for all we're complaining about the boss being hard to read, we all 4 of us managed to kill it.
Yeah.
And it didn't take us, I mean, like Bears, it took you a couple hours on hard mode. But, like, we managed to kill it in a fairly reasonable span of time.
Right. And, you know,
and I consider that a reasonable time for where I see myself and knowing the hard mode mechanic. So,
like, for all we're complaining, clearly something's going right.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just that one little bit that we could go one step further just to make the game inherently more readable when it comes to combat in PvM. And it would benefit Vorkath, it would benefit all the other bosses too. Like, imagine if there was like a red square underneath Karapak's Lightning to show you exactly where the damage field was, because it's, you know, not immediately clear because of the grid-based system. And this goes back to Necromancy launch week, where we were trying to figure out, is Necromancy going to be the thing that's going to change combat in the game? And, we said, yeah, this is easier to onboard with, but it doesn't change the core crux of how combat works. That's something that's just inherent to the systems of RuneScape that needs to be dealt with. And the reason I bring up it being difficult to read is because this entire arc from Fort Forinthry on to now has been something that somebody who was, just started their account last Christmas with their with the event that went on there, somebody who started with Fresh Start Worlds last year.
I was gonna say, and then came over,
yeah, and it's content that's tailor made for those kind of people, and that's just what I'm worried about with this, and why that should be, I think, one of the core goals going forward with PVM.
But that is specifically hard mode, right? Because someone coming like that, they're a little bit probably better than I am, but I'm not dealing with those mechanics and stuff. Yeah,
you were in story and normal.
Well, and I'm killing those giants. Like, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. It's real slow, but I haven't dealt with any of the stuff that these guys are talking about.
Yeah, to your point, Shane, where I see someone who just started in the game coming in, I see they do the quest, they do it in story mode. Story mode teaches them how to do it. They're taught, go kill the giants. So they start normal mode, they go kill the giants, and they go in. And normal mode with those two giants dead is still chaotic, but it's very doable.
It's not as confusing.
Like, I would consider Vorkath to be a mid-tier boss.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
Like, add in even with those two extra mechanics, I still think mid-tier. Adding in those mechanics makes them high mid-tier. But just on their own, yeah, it's a mid-tier boss. It's quite doable. And then you have the option to make it harder as you get more comfortable with it.
Right. And that's like God Wars Dungeon 2 and God Wars Dungeon 1. Yes, hard modes exist for those, but do people do them? Aside from, achievement runs and whatnot? Not really.
Yeah, pet runs.
Yeah. And I think this finally goes to the question, and Bears, you laughed when I put this in the show notes earlier. What is the point of hard mode? That's a question for you in terms of what we've been talking about and, leaning into here.
For me, I'm going to keep doing it. I think I enjoy the challenge.
Okay.
But it's only for that.
Would you rather?
I think I'm going to do more group kills too, because I did 2 of those. And in a group, I don't know if you guys even tried groups, but
no, I didn't know you could do a group.
It's actually significantly easier. If you at least get a group of 3, you can have one person tank Zemo, one person tank Vorkath, and then the third person can actually soul split and just deal with avoid the mechanics.
Right.
So then they could be doing the split soul incantation, and so but it still scales the same amount, so it's still not any faster or anything. But on the 2 or 3 group kills I did, there was this is actually easy since I'm not tanking anything. I've just got to avoid the mechanics. So I might do more group kills. I don't know.
Okay, that's actually an interesting point. I got to get a group together next week and do this then at some point. Sounds good. All 4 of us? Yes?
Sure.
I'd be in.
I'm down.
Dennis?
Yeah.
Go kill a dragon.
So let's put some hard modes on the table then. Or just hard bosses in general. Zemouregal up to phase 7. Solak, Virago, Vorkath, hard mode. Bears, which one's your favorite in terms of, does this displace any of those other hard bosses, I guess is my question.
No. On one, I think it's easier than those.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, since it's still fresh and new, I still enjoy it. So it's on that same level of enjoyment. But if you ask me that in 3 months, I might not agree with that.
Because you'll have your 100 kills and be on your way, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that's what will happen.
Which, to be fair, there is a thing you can do for 100 kills at Vorkath in any of the modes that awards you some points in a certain piece of content that shall not be named.
There's actually two things that
Yeah, the 100
be
kills.
applying to.
Yeah, 100 kills will give you two things there.
I'm sorry, guys. I just had to do it. But what is the point of hard mode then, Bears?
I think it's just for the challenge. I mean, I think you hit it spot on when you said it's kind of like Everyone's Dungeon 1 and 2, where, yeah, it's an option, but why? Why would you do it? Like, maybe there's probably a better pet chance. At least that's my assumption. And
you'd assume a better loot
probably.
chance, but we'll get there. And that discussion.
Loot deserves its own conversation.
Yeah.
Because, and this is what I wanted to do here as well. I wanted to really separate the discussion between boss and loot, because I have to say, my normal runs, with turning one or two mechanics off and turning them all off, I really enjoyed the boss fight. I don't know if you guys agree with that or no?
Yeah, it's fairly fun.
I mean, it was okay.
As a mid-tier boss goes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more interesting than God Wars 2.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I wanted to separate from this the loot and the actual fight, because I think overall, and, you know, aside from the complaining about telegraphing of what's going to happen in terms of fight, I think overall the boss itself is fairly well done on its own when you look at it from a mechanic perspective. And I realize that might be a controversial thing to say this week, but I think looking at it from something that, you know, in effect needs to take the challenge to the next level, like Zemouregal took the challenge to the next level last summer, or the people who were, you know, min-maxing Raziel, I don't think this boss is designed for that. I think this boss is designed to be fought around the normal fight.
Yeah, I think this is a mid-tier boss that has a hard mode because every boss has a hard mode.
Yeah.
And maybe not every single boss has to push the edge of
exactly.
PvM.
Yeah. Maybe it's okay. We can have mid-game content. We can have the bossing equivalent of Het's Oasis.
And see, I feel like that's a controversial opinion, specifically in PvM circles.
Well, yeah, because when you're at the end game, you always want the end game to be extended.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
like this is not going to be a very exciting update to people who are doing 4,000% Zemouregal.
Exactly.
But you know what? How many times does that happen? Like when on a skilling level, you know what I mean? Like
right, where you get like a level 60 piece of content when you're 120.
Yeah, like I mean that happens all the time. So welcome to our world, my world.
Because let's rate this the same way we do with quests. Did the boss accomplish what it was set out to do in terms of providing an experience, and did they ship it in a way that didn't have many glaring holes in it? If the answer to that is yes, and it looks good, and we enjoyed ourselves, then that's an update well done on the combat boss engagement side, I think. Yes?
Yeah. There's some polish issues we could pick at, but it's a fine boss. It looks gorgeous.
I was going to say,
we haven't said this yet, but the animation is god tier, especially on Vorkath.
Yeah.
Props to the animators.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I adore dragons. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. That's what you play RuneScape for. That was the first big quest, Dragon Slayer.
Yeah,
and let's just suspend disbelief for a moment and realize that Vorkath features in Dragon Slayer 2 and Old School. But hey, right? We got our own method around
version.
that. But with that, Bears, do you have any other comments on hard mode before we talk about the loot? Because that is something that needs work.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so it's just hard mode exists purely to have a hard mode checkbox, basically, right?
That would be how I take it.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the lack of loot then.
Okay. You're spoiling right off the bat.
I want to say first, I love the chest mechanic. I think that's a good way of doing boss fights going forward. You get the chest, you can open them after on with your own Luck of the Dwarves. It would be nice to get the things in there that are, individual items, like blue dragon hide, dragon scale dust, to get those kind of things noted so that they don't just, fill your inventory. That would be a nice quality of life feature on it, but absolutely do more of this chest loot mechanic. But this also falls into why hard mode really isn't worth doing. Bears, how many scales have you got in you said like 30 odd kills at this point?
Spikes, I've got none.
Yeah. And I don't think any of us have seen spikes in normal mode, have we? No.
Nope.
No.
I'm 10 kills in. I've had about 20 dragon hide, 0 spikes.
Yeah. And
well,
go ahead, Dennis.
I was just gonna say, Shane, I think this is gonna be a lesson in economics, right? Just because things are rare doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna be valuable.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to realize that you use the dragon hide to make the tier 75 tank armor, and then you use the spikes to upgrade that to the tier 90 power armor, which is at the same level as Serenic. And Serenic itself, I think you can get a full set of Serenic tier 90 range now for, a handful of mil. It's definitely less than 10 mil now.
So Serenic is the cheapest armor for range.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If there's no demand, demand dictates price.
Well, in Serenic's case, supply dictates price, because Serenic scales drop like candy.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, there's that.
So what I'm saying is that Serenic is going to be cheaper than Dracolic, right?
Yeah.
So there definitely, I think, needs to be something done, probably on Dracolic's side, to bring that into parity with the Serenic, or do you guys disagree with that? Because, I mean, if Bears hasn't seen a single spike in 30 hard mode kills, and hard mode is, would you say it's are you profiting from hard mode at this point, or is it a loss?
Oh, I haven't thought about that, and I'm scared to think about it.
I saw the Super Sarah Bruise in your inventory.
Yeah, definitely losing, probably. Especially if you account for, because I'm not getting to kill every single attempt. I've been telling out sometimes. I'm actually dying sometimes. It's getting to the point where it's like 4 out of 5 I get a kill now, but I mean, that one I don't get a kill, straight loss. So yeah, I'm definitely losing money, which, thanks for making me think of that.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, I was just doing the math on back of the envelope about the spikes.
Yeah.
You need 99 spikes to make a full set of Dracolich.
So is this supposed to be like the tier 90 ranged armor that, we go for to make money now, since Serenic is in the toilet, profit-wise?
I guess. I mean, according to the wiki, spikes are at 1 mil, but they've been climbing steadily, so they're probably way more than that.
Yeah.
1 mil each. So that's 100 mil for the set.
Right, and with that, it's not worth it, because you might as well, just forgo the set effect then.
Well, I think... Sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
I was just going to say, and that's just right now. I mean, that's while it's still hot and everything.
Yeah.
From the discussion we had last week, I don't think this is going to be that in demand.
Well, I think the interesting thing is the set effect.
Yeah. And Bears, I want your... Okay, Zerdones, go ahead, and then I'll get Bears' opinion on the set effect.
Well, what I was going to say is, what's interesting about the set effect, and like, we'll talk... Bears will have more opinions about whether the set effect is mathematically good or not. But conceptually, I think it's really interesting that it's a set effect that applies to one particular weapon type.
The bow.
So, to the bow, yeah. So the Serenic is fine. It's a fine ranged armor. But if you want the most out of your bow build, and if you're a top-end range player...
Yeah.
With Bow of the Last Guardian, if you want the most out of your bow build, you're going to want Dracolich, because it gives you this extra oomph.
Yeah.
That Serenic doesn't.
Right. And just to recap on that, set bonus 1 per piece worn, channeling rapid fire generates 0.2 Draclith or 0.5 Elite Draclith adrenaline every 0.6 seconds. Also, for 3 pieces or more, when wielding a bow and channeling rapid fire for its full duration, you get Dracolic Infusion for 3 seconds, which increases your chance to critically strike with ranged attacks by 20% for Dracolic and 40% for Elite Dracolic, and it is increased by 1.8 seconds for each additional piece of Dracolic or Elite Dracolic armor that you use. Bears, where do you fall on this set effect? I know you're not a ranged person primarily.
No, but when I do use the bow. So
okay,
eventually I probably will end up getting it. But I'd have to look at the difference, because from my understanding, you're supposed to cancel rapid fire.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know where the damage is now compared to that. So I'd guess it's about the same. So I think what they're just going for is just, we're trying to make combat easier. Like, the high end people know we cancel rapid fire this tick. So if they're not teaching people, or like they don't pass that knowledge down, like the new people won't know. So let's just make it easier for them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just would have to look at the numbers to see if what's better and what's not.
Yeah, and also remember, this set effect will really sing should the crit changes that are on the beta come over.
Yeah, the crit change difference is, I think that's the big part of it. I mean, 40% crit change is a lot. Crit chance is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you tee that up with a SGP spec right after that, I mean,
and that's the window.
That's a lot of damage. Like,
or dark bow, even.
I can see, I can see that adding a lot of damage. It's just, I don't know exactly with the numbers yet.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, and that's what I'm wondering: is this set effect worth 100 mil right now?
I mean,
if you have a bow,
people are paying a lot more than 100 mil for it right now. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the kind of person who's maining Bow the Last Guardian, you're probably willing to pay for it.
Yeah. That first week economy is always fun to watch.
Yeah. And to be clear, they are watching this, and this is something that came from the live stream this week. They're looking at the boss fight in terms of the mechanics. They're also looking at the loot with it as well, and they're hoping to have some sort of statement out on this either by Friday, which, covered on next week's show, and it'll, be out by the time you guys are hearing this, or it'll come out Monday next week. But they are actively looking at this and, figuring out what can be done about the drops and whatnot to, in effect, scratch that itch that says that hard mode's just not worth it right now from a monetary angle, and that the key drops from this are too rare. So I'm honestly thinking they're going to make the spikes more common.
I could see that,
because that's what we saw with Necromancy, right? Necromancy, in terms of the Raziel stuff, that was pretty common in itself, about 1 in 100. And everybody got, their own tier 90 armor that they crafted with the skill. And the whole point of that was to just get the fun new toys in more people's hands, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they did do that.
I mean, I think that's almost the only thing they can do, because if you look at the drop table is not very exciting.
No, it's not. I mean, it's like dragon bolt tips, some herb seeds.
It's less than 100k GP, frost dragon bones, dragon hide, bane stone spirits, elder wood spirits. Yeah, some seeds, some alkaballs.
Cannonballs, Tanis.
Yeah, more cannonballs. And then it's the uniques. And Undead Dragonhide is very, very common. That's not exciting. Spikes are exciting because they're valuable. And then there's the Codex, which we'll get into, because that's its own conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the only thing they do. I don't know that they would cut the HP on the boss in hard mode.
I mean, you could also add another drop to hard modes. Like right now, you get 5 or 6. I think 6
They can
pieces
just
per
up
chest.
They just
Yeah.
add more chances to it, right?
Yeah, so maybe you add 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in theory, it's double the HP, double. I don't know if it's double the damage you take, but
Yeah.
it is at least double HP for the boss. I don't think they should go up to 8, but they could.
No, and you know we're trying to read tea leaves here, and you know chances are by the time the podcast is out, you guys will know what's going on here. I want to hone in on the dragon bolt tips that this drops, because that's what the Serenic set effect is that when wielding crossbow attacks have a 6% for regular Serenic and 12% for elite Serenic to trigger the set effect of enchanted dragonstone bolts. And when you add in the 3-piece set, they add in the Onyx and Hydrix bolts as well. So it makes sense. They're like saying, here, use some. Here, go try some dragon bolts out there, right? I know they're not used that often in PVM, but I feel like they're trying to put them on the menu again.
I can't remember the last time I used them. I know at one point I used to, but I think that was like budget gear.
Right.
I think the last time I used crossbows was only Onyx and it's only a Hydrix and occasionally Onyx.
Yeah,
Ruby.
Exactly.
So I honestly forgot what I mean, I know now, but when they announced this, I'm like, what does the Dragonstone even do again? Like I didn't remember. So
yeah, it is like it's not a bad effect. It's just kind of overshadowed by all the others.
Yeah, and I feel like with the 6% and 12%, and specifically for the people who have the 2-piece set, is that it just brings them into the realm of possibility of being competitive in some places where they might not have been before.
Well, one thing that I found a little bit confusing is how this interacts with the other increases, like the other buffs to activation chance we have, like the Seer's Village tasks and the ranged cape.
Right.
Like I guess it's probably an additive increase, but I don't know.
I
think the wording could maybe be improved a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like I don't think this is what it is, but as written, it sounds like it just sets activation chance to 6 or 12%, which would make that a pretty significant nerf.
Right, because you got all those other things in there. So
yeah,
fair enough. Well, I'm keen to wait and see if they do anything to the actual drop stuff in a upcoming patch. Lord of Bones, anyone?
Yeah.
Aye, Bears. What do you think of this ability? It's not something. It's not the next Greco, is it?
Definitely not. I mean, maybe a G-Chain, which, I mean, that wasn't good on release, but now it's one of the best abilities. So, in theory, maybe they have something planned that this will be needed in.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I don't see a use for it.
So it stacks up to 200 times. It's applied by the Skeleton Conjure. I was talking with Thaxi this week, trying to say, hey, you have looked at these things before. Where do you think this is going to be used? And it's an interesting discussion because it comes down to accuracy and the multipliers surrounding that, which in itself is a whole convoluted conversation. Because at the core of it, accuracy is a cap stat. You don't get a benefit for having more than 100%, and there's already so many ways in the game to boost accuracy, and cheaper ways to boost accuracy. And somebody who is, already running high-level stats, overloads and whatnot, isn't really going to have a need for an accuracy increase. I think we were talking before, it's Nex, AOD, and which other boss? Virago, where you struggle on accuracy. And with that, there's other ways that are better to do it than this codex. And even then, you're not really getting that much of an increase. I know there was a video that was done, I think his name is Wrath, looked and saw that, maybe, hey, with this, you're getting, a 4 to 6% increase on your accuracy when this thing is fully stacked, and it takes multiple minutes for Lord of Bones to stack up.
Yeah,
so
200 stacks.
It's just
a while.
Not usable really at this point, which in theory, and I'm talking purely theoretical right now, would probably be usable at somewhere for where you have a boss that you need to break an accuracy cap. We don't have many of those in-game right now because, as we mentioned, most boss monsters have a special boost applied to their armor value above what would have been expected given their defense rating. So with that, you have to look at the specific bosses from that period where they were doing that. Magister is also another one of those.
Yeah, Magister is high defense.
And then all the accuracy discussions after that just really weren't considered because it was deemed not fun. So that's case number one where it could be used. What about for lower level players? If they could get their hands on this? Maybe?
I mean, I was thinking I'll eventually get it as a drop, hopefully, and use it for myself. And my thought is eventually I'll probably help teach people Solak, AOD, and Hex occasionally. So it's like, if I'm helping teach people, it'd be good to use. So in that situation, I could see it being good. So yes, the low-level players, it would be good. But with how expensive and it is as of right now, it's not feasible for them to get it, but it probably will drop in price.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already dropped quite a lot.
I'm not surprised by that.
And Thaxi also had a third idea about where this might be useful. Off-styling. So this is using the wrong style, like magic on a monster with a weakness to melee, but on most monsters these days, it probably doesn't matter if you have a strong setup. But on recent Slayer monsters, attack style makes a difference in the damage. So that difference could be made up for with accuracy buffs. That doesn't really apply to, of course, necromancy because of how the necromancy accuracy calculation works, which, of course, just lowers your damage. And with this, when you look at necromancy, that means that, well, that usually could mean wearing other armor sets for their defensive bonuses. And I think the eagle-eyed will know probably where he's going on this, is that armor style can make a big buff to accuracy if using the armor of the style that you're attacking with, but it also gives style-specific bonuses, or affinity as it's called in the game, to block incoming damage. Like range armors increase your chance to block magic damage, and decrease your chance to block melee damage, but not by a huge amount, but it's enough to make a difference. And with this, you can kind of line this up to say that maybe somewhere Lord of Bones could be used, is being able to use necromancy in concert with three-piece Crypt Bloom.
You could also, the other idea that I would have would be if you're using necromancy using this, and all of a sudden you switch to your Saren Godbow, use the spec, and then go back. You'd lose your summons or minions and stuff, but you'd still get that SGB bonus. I don't know if that would be good or not, but that's another theory.
But even again, that's still very convoluted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a high-end
and
strategy.
You're still waiting, a minute, 2 minutes for this to stack up.
Yeah.
So maybe not. And it's just like, okay, I can kind of see what you're doing here for low-level players and where there'd be a benefit on this. But if it's meant to be for PVM, you really don't need that except for, 3 or 4 bosses. Slayer, maybe, but then you're looking at it somebody who's, probably not going to have the money to buy into this. So it's just a weird reward space, I think. Probably just needs somebody from the Combat Council to comment on it and what the thoughts were behind it.
Well, if we're considering Vorkath to be a mid-tier boss, then having something that makes stuff a little easier at the lower end of PVM maybe isn't that odd.
Right, and that's also what you see when you look at the drop tables as well.
Yeah. But I think the other, like Bear sort of mentioned this earlier, I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is we don't know what's in the pipeline. And like how many times on this show or in the broader community have we said, oh, this is useless, this is terrible. And then 2 months, 3 months later, oh, now I see why they did that.
That's where I'm leaning towards. And I don't know, I was debating maybe it's just because I like giving people the benefit of the doubt. So I'm giving the devs the benefit of the doubt. Like, they know what they're doing more than we do. Yeah. So
dangerous thing to say in this class.
So that's where I'm leaning towards.
Okay. Maybe it just needs a comment. I don't know.
I think I thought it was
like
kind of
it's interesting
odd timing to bring something like that out while like combat beta is going on.
Yeah.
Where one of the main things is
accuracy.
Yeah.
Because that would only and that would tick up to, being, and let's put this in the perspective of necromancy then, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's say you don't have 100% accuracy at a boss. You use this and you stack it up and you get 3 or 4% damage boost. Assuming ranged melee magic bring on the same accuracy system that necromancy have. That's a 3 to 4% damage boost. What else gives that kind of damage boost? Oh, going from tier 90 to tier 92, 2.5% boost. Going from tier 92 to tier 95, another 2.5, 3% boost. And when you put it in that perspective, getting those kinds of damage boosts from tier 90 to 92 to 95, if you're a lower level, you don't really have anything that can, do that on the accuracy scale. And this is what this ability is for then.
And if that's the case, then that's coming in the game regardless.
Right. Because just think about how much work it is to go from 90 to 92 to 95 and then pick up the, tier 99 prayer from 95. Each of those are similar levels of boost. This is that same sort of thing, except not aimed at the ultra high-end PVM person. It's aimed more at the mid-tier person. I think this solution and this idea behind it actually makes the most sense.
We shall see.
Yeah.
But shall indeed.
Everybody's going to, of course, be doing 100 Vorkath kills for their lovely hero points. Oh, sorry. Did I say that?
Oh, no.
What? I'm a hero.
No.
I saved the fort.
You're going to be doing 100 Vorkath kills to get the Necromancy Nexus, which, as we talked about last week, stores your ectoplasm, stores your necromancy runes, and if you get the upgraded piece from it, you also get a 15 level boost of your bone shield. So happy days for that. I don't really know like there's much else to say about that, except this is probably the piece of content here that people are.
This is the thing we've been clamoring for ever since Necromancy came out.
We kind of buried the lead on that one.
Yeah.
So this is the best reward out of all of them, and it just takes attrition.
And you just get it, and also with that burying the lead, you get it by just killing the boss. How long have we asked
guaranteed
for a drop from a boss that you can just get by killing it, and you don't need to, sell yourself out to the RNG.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what mode you're in. So, I mean, I could go knock out the 70 normal mode kills that I need, and I could get it relatively quickly. So, yeah, I like this idea. Yeah. And it's nothing like too game breaking that it should be RNG based. So, it's a nice
really
way
just
to do
convenience.
this. Yep.
Gives you 5 extra inventory slots.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And also, the one that you don't get after 100 kill, the one that you can just actually make in game, is made with necromancy parts. I actually haven't looked this up yet this week.
It's an ensouled bar, a silver bar, and a sapphire.
Yep.
And you need to be 60 necromancy to make it. So it's very, very achievable.
That's really good.
It doesn't have the buff to bone shield, but otherwise it's the same. It stores all your ectoplasm, all your necromancy runes. Yeah, it's worth getting. It's worth getting while you go and kill Vorkath.
And people will have also noted that there's not the prayer bonus on it like the rune patches have.
Yep, that's true.
So, I feel like the decision there was just made to be saying, hey, just because it's a rune pouch doesn't mean it necessarily needs to have a prayer bonus behind it. And it just allows there to be another reward space in the future that would do that. And, ask yourself, does it make sense that necromancy items would give prayer bonus? Maybe not. I don't know. So.
And to be fair, you bring in rune pouches anyway still, so you just throw one in the slot. It's no difference.
Yeah, you don't actually need to have it equipped in order to use the contents.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the one from the boss yet. I don't know if I assume you need to have that one equipped in order to get the bone shield buff.
I don't know. I
would think so because it's a worn
item.
item.
So. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and that leads me again, and I thought this coming in, and you guys tell me, would you not agree that the entire drop table is built around that player who is just moving from story mode into normal mode, minus the spikes? No?
I don't actually know who this is for.
It's not really exciting for anybody.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It feels like
a drop
table
that
was made. It feels like it was a drop table that was based around theme.
Yeah,
which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Because you notice we were all very excited when we were talking about the boss itself, but when it came to drops, that completely, soured the milk.
Yeah. Again, I'm looking at some of these drops. Okay, Frost Dragon Bones are good for prayer, but you don't get very many of them. Blue Dragon Hide, mid-level crafting. Bane Stone Spirits, kind of upper mid mining. Elder Wood Spirits, high-level wood cutting. We're all over the shop. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Other than the thematic implications, I don't know who this is for. And maybe it's not for anyone. Maybe it is just for the theme. And if so, great. That's fine.
But
I'm going to say this, and I don't want this to...
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, for any boss, at the end of the day, you should at least break even. And
oh, that's
the problem.
I got thoughts on that. I got opinions. I got thoughts, TM.
But
yeah, that's the thing that I keep hearing is the boss you don't break even on. But have we learned nothing from the economy problems from the economy blog post and live streams from earlier this year? The idea that boss kills have to be money positive all the time is what is destroying the game's economy.
Yeah.
That is why in January, there is like 100 bill coming into the game every day because every boss kill has to be net profit. That's not sustainable.
Somebody out there is very mad at you right now.
So, I mean...
But we don't know where they're at. Like, the tax could be siphoning out so much. Sorry, the fee could be siphoning out so much from the Grand Exchange every day that we could afford to have something like this brought in, right?
Maybe. I mean, don't have more up to date. The last information we heard, I think, was that
January.
The fee was. Yeah, I think it was after January that we had this. But the last information I remember, whenever it was, is that the fee was slightly overperforming.
Yeah.
So it was doing slightly better than death costs. Maybe it's gone gangbusters since they opened up the GE above max cash, but I don't know.
There's a little leprechaun there smiling with all the extra gold that it's taken in. But and see, that's the thing. And this is what I was going to say about this boss with this drop table. We don't know who it's for. And I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But did the Combat Council balance this drop table? It honestly feels like this was a drop table that was thrown together without the Combat Council looking at it.
I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, there has to be a reason to do a boss when there's so many other things.
And obviously, I know multiple
in-game.
people would have looked at this, but
Well, the reason to do the boss is for the spikes.
Yeah.
And it's a slot machine.
But 35 kills in, 0 for bears, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you extrapolate that out, then that probably puts him at somewhere between like 1 in 20 and 1 in 30 then.
Or worse. Hopefully not worse. But...
Yeah. So, I don't know. We need to hear their post about the spikes and whatnot in the drop table, because that is honestly the thing that sours this boss. And I think if you look at the boss itself and the fight in a vacuum, it's good. It's fine. Because I don't think there's anything like too groundbreaking or too broken with the boss that prevented it from being done or that was overly confusing. Was there to any of you guys?
The only thing that was bothering me was the counter, like the kill time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very funny.
I walked in,
That's
I'm like,
very funny,
shoot,
bug.
I'm already at 63 hours for this kill. This is taking a while.
They broke my Zemouregal time.
Yeah, I posted that in the Discord, and Earth just completely blew past it. But yeah, making a run for your Zemouregal time. Probably like 72 hours now. I'm counting.
And the other thing, I think it was one of the mods said that if they do update the drop table, any loot chests that you had before the update will not update.
Oh,
Interesting.
Which I like
it makes
that.
Sense.
Yeah, because I mean, otherwise I would just sit there and every single drop I get, just hang on to it.
Yeah, just bank it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just something else to note.
I think the last thing I'll say about the drop table is, again, bearing in mind this idea that maybe Vorkath is a mid-tier boss, 200 to 300k per chest isn't terrible for a mid-tier boss.
no, it's not.
Like it's going to be pretty rough if you're going in with your endgame gear, but
for 5 minutes, though,
That's what I was saying. You could get,
Yeah.
I mean, you can get 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 Vindicta kills at that same time and get much more money.
Can you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Vindicta Prince kills now with Necromancy. But
I meant more the value of the drop.
Right. And that's the thing. I think the normal drops are fine. I think it's a fine drop table for normal.
I just think the rares are too rare.
Yeah, the rares are too rare for hard mode. I think that's the problem. And I realize that sounds like the PVM or angle, but what's the point of having a new armor set in game if nobody can access it?
Yeah. Have we learned nothing since Necromancy?
We want things to be accessible since Necromancy.
Exactly.
We want the fun toys to be accessible. I love the fact that I was able to farm all my Raziel armor, and first time ever I have, best in slot armor for a class.
Yeah.
So, all right, going once, going twice. Anything else on Vorkath?
Nope.
No. Okay. All gone. Good. We do have a couple of patch notes this week, but they're just so minor that they don't really don't warrant too much discussion on their own. There was a bug that was hotfixed last week, where if you deposited your ore box with spirits in them, you would delete all the ore that was in your ore box.
Oh no,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Also, after last week's graphical updates, the Varrock sewers and Edgeville dungeons were not accessible on non-members worlds.
That was a funny one to read.
There was also an issue that prevented people from progressing the Evil Dave's Big Day Out.
I saw that
quest.
on Reddit. It was like the mirror didn't spawn. There's a mirror that you have to admire yourself in because it's that kind of quest.
Yeah.
And the mirror just didn't spawn.
Yeah. Or no, I'm sorry. It was that they fixed a bug where noted ores would be deleted if you used them on an ore box. That was the bug.
Ooh.
That's
way worse.
Yeah.
The ore boxes, I mean, you're only going to lose 100 of whatever, but noted could be anything.
Yeah. Not great.
All right. Also coming to RuneScape next week, Christmas time. The Christmas Village and surrounding event featuring a quest called It's Snow Bother, a new seasonal Christmas hub with a peppermint outfit, scarves, and hats, effectively remasters of the old ones. You get those for just taking part in the event weekly. And if you complete them all, you can combine them, and you get and Mod Ramen loved showing this off on the show. He loved showing it off, where you could just choose any which color you wanted for your scarf and hat.
Full customized color.
So many great rewards coming from this one. Black Partyhat, we got an inkling of this last week, and they're staying true that it's not a microtransaction-based event. All you have to do is submit up to 3 Santa letters each week to get on the nice list, and then you'll have a chance at getting one of the Black Party hats. And it's something that's actually going to return each and every year. So you're going to be able to have other chances of getting it, and it's not going to be, like a one and done like the Black Santa hat was or the Green Santa hat was. So that's neat. I'm looking forward to getting one of those. I hope my RNG will work for me as it has worked for everything else.
Yeah, ever.
I'm sure it will.
But overall, everything we have here, environment-wise, and just where things have lined up with this, it just looks wonderful, and I can't wait to dive into this on Monday. And we're going to save most of the discussion for that then. Skilling activities and whatnot there, the skilling hubs we've always wanted to get the festive spirit going, snow implings, presents with the wrapping paper event, Christmas spirit store, which will allow you to purchase any Christmas rewards that you have been missing since 2011. They just chose that as an arbitrary year.
Ooh.
They said that, hey, if you guys want more than this, we're open to adding more in to previous years, next year, whenever this comes. So that'll be a discussion that goes back and forth as well. And also, of course, the wrapping paper is back, which means there's going to be a tradable rare that's going to be there. And, of course, on Treasure Hunter. And this year it's the purple Santa hat, which we knew one of those would be coming, right, Tanis?
Oh, yeah.
Suspected it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think coming soon, Christmas Pass.
No.
Holiday pass.
Holiday Pass.
Oh. Secret Santa's also back, so who knows what you might get from that. I know some people got some really strange things, but also some people got some really rare things from that 2 years ago. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So
looks like a really solid event.
Yeah, we'll have full coverage of it next week, and I think everybody is going to be thanking Jagex for this, because this is, I think this ticks all the boxes of what people wanted for holiday events going forward. Now we just need them for Easter and Halloween, I think, right? Something in the similar vein.
I think I want to temper my enthusiasm a little bit, because I think, I'm really excited by what they have here. What I'm concerned about is that they're making a lot of promises for the future, because they've said Black Partyhat is coming back, and they've said that this is going to be a new seasonal hub. Black Partyhat coming back, we've heard that before. They said that about the Green Santa hat, never happened.
Yeah.
New seasonal hub, they did that with Halloween. It was good the first year, and then it got sort of progressively less interesting. So I think this year it'll be fantastic. I don't know how it'll go in future years.
Okay, that's fair.
Judgment.
That's fair. Fair enough.
Everything does get a little stale over time.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, let's move on to our achievements of the week then. I'll start us off. I'm glad that Zerdones and Bears are here this week, because it's always so much for just two of us to go through the double XP achievements.
I feel like I'm always on right after double XP though.
It's part of the
I don't
plan.
know what it is, but you guys just like to give me as many names as possible.
So you got sucker tattooed on your forehead.
Starting off, we have Forex with 99 Prayer, Mej Quest with 99 Thieving and 99 Magic on the 20th. We have Brappa with 120 Strength on the 19th. Then on the 18th, we have Cyan Panur with 99 Cooking, Forex again with 99 Construction and 99 Firemaking, and Lady Claw with 200 million Summoning. Ouch.
Very nice. Very nice. Still on November 18th, we've got Lord Urf with 120 Archaeology. November 17th, Cyan Panur with 99 Fishing. Hephaesto 5 with 99 Woodcutting, Mosin Natho with 99 Necromancy, Ozazoyo 120 Defense, and Skips with 99 Necromancy.
Continuing on the 17th, we got Totally with 120 Herblore, Vorkath with 99 Necromancy, Remo Reaper with 99 Necromancy on the 16th, So Aces with 120 Smithing on the 16th, Tim 2 with 99 Necromancy, and Todio 22 with 99 Rune Crafting.
Nicely done, everyone. Nicely done.
Congrats.
Very nice.
All right. Zerdones, you have a pick of the week for us. This is a bit of a... let's just call this a bit, I don't know, tech news pick of the week, maybe?
Yeah, it's kind of a pick of the week. It kind of overlaps with tech news. So there's a video game creation utility called Game Maker. It's been around for a while. It was it first released in 1999, and it is now free. It is free for non-commercial use on non-console platforms. So anyone can download it. You can make a game with it. It's optimized for 2D. So if you want to make like a 3D AAA game, you're probably going to be out of luck. But
that's what Unity is for.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of why I wanted to make this my pick of the week after Unity very publicly hung themselves, pilloried themselves in the press. It's kind of fun to see Game Maker come out and be like, yeah, like it's free for non-commercial. If you want to use it commercially, it's a $99.99 license, one-time perpetual license for commercial.
It's a rarity in this day and age.
It is commercial and console exports, and like so Game Maker sort of has a reputation because it started out as kind of like baby's first game creation utility. It was a drag and drop visual editor, but it has evolved quite a lot, and it is like lest you think it is still like the kiddie pool of game dev. Game Maker is the engine behind such titles you may or may not have heard of as Hotline Miami, Cook Serve Delicious and its sequels, and Undertale, the indiest of indie darlings. So definitely a very powerful tool. If you're interested in kind of toying around with game dev, this seems like a good way to do it.
Yeah, and you know, I need to underscore how much tools like this make me happy, because it was when Game Maker first came out in 1999 and, you know, the early 2000s, that it was actually really difficult to find things like this that let people get into that sort of sandbox. You know, you could always, you know, install like a Java runtime or a Python runtime, or, you know, dare I say it, back in the day, Visual Basic runtime to learn programming. You're smirking, Sir Jones. Was Visual Basic your first programming language?
Well, no, I was smirking because I was thinking of the history in my head and how we started out in ye olden days where it was very difficult to program because you had to flick the switches manually. And then we moved on to where it got easier with things like BASIC, the pre-Visual Basic, just console BASIC. And then anyone could pick it up on like the Commodores and the home PCs at the time. And we seem to just kind of go in cycles.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm smiling.
Yeah, and it's somebody who is in school, somebody who is just, you know, messing around with this, realizes that, hey, I like doing this, I'm going to study computer science. You might not end up making games, but this is your door to that field. That's what these sorts of things enable, things like this. And that's why having something like this made free is such a big statement. So 100% wholeheartedly support and endorse this pick of the week. I haven't used it myself, but I
haven't either. I should also say I have the blog post open and was skimming through it. They've also made their asset bundles free.
Right, because that's also another thing that's difficult with games, finding assets that you can use freely in 3D and whatnot.
Yeah, and so you're gonna have a pretty samey game using the free asset bundles, but hey, it's getting your feet wet. Try it out.
Yeah, it's all about pushing those first few buttons and whatnot. So
yeah,
but
learn
right
the
on,
craft.
right on. What have we been up to on RS? Bears, go first.
This week, just the new boss, but outside of that, been playing on the Iron a lot more. Looking forward to this event. I'm going to try to finish that up on tomorrow and start working towards 120
really
archaeology.
Quickly.
Yeah, that's what I already got 5 of the shards with barely even playing.
Yeah.
So I'll try to get 120 archaeology in the next 2 weeks and go from there.
Yeah. Good. Sounds good. Tannis?
I, did the quest, did the boss. Other than that, a little bit of wood cutting, and because it is getting that time of year again, we have an end of the year show coming up. A lot of reminiscing and thinking, and reflecting over this year. And that's been about it.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting YIR year in review episode.
Definitely.
I will say that much. You can kind of tell that's kind of where our thoughts have been about what the end of the year looks like from that angle. So, Zerdones, how about you?
I've been sort of dividing my time between Vorkath and archaeology because I got all the shards pretty early. I think I got my 8th shard yesterday. I had 7 of 8 shards by the end of day 1. I probably could have gotten the 8th, but whatever, put it off a little bit. I got my 8 shards. I got my free porters. So I've been splitting my time between doing some Vorkath and trying to get a spear tip. Still don't have one of those.
I have 3.
Yeah, I know, because you don't count, Shane.
Okay.
We don't count you.
All right, fair enough. As for me this week, RS3 stuff has been mainly Vorkath with a couple of herb runs thrown in. There hasn't been much time for anything else because of something called Leagues on Old School, which is progressing very nicely. And that's actually gotten to the point where Old School doesn't actually feel like a foreign game anymore, believe it or not, to the point where it feels like I've, got my foot back in both, and I can do, in effect, both without... it's kind of hard to describe, but it just feels familiar, is what I'll say with that. So been doing a lot over there. Of course, we'll have the full update on that on the Old School show, which releases every Sunday, update.show/OS. Sirion and I do that each and every week. But yeah, I think my goal for this free death period is also to teach myself hard mode Carapac, because I wanted to do that last time we had a free death event going on, but I didn't because I was too much on the Raziel train at the time. So I figured, let's just maybe dedicate, a few hours one day and a few hours the next day to, just throw myself in front of hard mode Carapac and see what happens. Because, granted, familiars no longer die, overloads no longer disappear as of last week, but there's still the question of, those death costs that are going to keep ramping up. So it's just nice to have a free death event that prevents that from happening. So that's likely what's going to be in the cards going forward with that. And that'll probably also finish off the Vorkath hunt event as well. But I believe that's it for this episode of Update.
I forgot Bears.
No, I did Bears.
I went first.
Oh, you went first? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bears went first. He's been on the Iron Man doing stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. But next week will be Christmas, and then we sail on into the last month of 2012. 2020, what?
2012.
2012.
Hell,
Oof.
where have you been?
I mean, I think we need to take a couple years back, but not that far. Oof.
On that note, if you want the podcast delivered automatically to you, the best way to do that is to subscribe. Update.show/subscribe. We're on all the podcast listeners out there: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Pocket Casts, and more. And also YouTube, the video version of the show as well. YouTube.com/RSBANDB. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Thanks, Dones and Bears, for being here. See you next week, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.